Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Split Equity. It's a nice, crisp, frosty morning. I've got another project that I've been working on. Unfortunately, it's been at work, so I haven't been able to record anything until now. It is this beauty right here. That is a 1987 Mazda B2200, two-wheel drive. And it is not mine. It is a buddy of mine's. He's been asking me to help him find just a small cheap truck for years now, really. Mostly because he just kind of wanted a truck. Now he actually owns a house that, he occasionally needs to have a truck to do something. So it became a little bit more urgent. He was sending me a whole bunch of stuff, mostly like Ford Rangers and things like that. Just clapped out junk, really. And he sent me this, and I was like, I never would have given this truck, the time of day 10 years ago or something like that. But this is a Japanese-built truck from the 80s, before the Mazda B series was just a Ford Ranger with a different grille on it, and it actually is probably a pretty good little truck. So then I started looking a little bit closer, and I was like, yeah, it's got some surface rust in a lot of places, even the wiper arms there, but except for this little bit right here, this I could probably pop out a little bit. This might be a little bit more difficult. There is no other damage to the body that I see anywhere. It has 4 brand new tires on it. Right there, 2019, 48th week of 2019. I'm pretty sure that one of these said 2020. Because 21st week of 2020. And the guy said they had like 200 miles on them because, when we bought this truck, it really didn't run. It does now run. It does now stop. Those are the two things that it didn't do when we got it. Two things that are very important when you purchase a vehicle. The guy was asking $2,500. After probably about 30 minutes of looking it over and attempting to drive it, I offered him $1,500. I told him, I offered him $1,500, and he came back with $1,700. My buddy was kind of off screen, if you will, but behind the guy, and I looked over at him to see if he was okay with $1,700, and he's just giddily nodding his head. And I was like, yeah, I think we're good with that. But the truck has, and this is what I expected, this is why I offered what I offered, has taken probably about that $800 savings in parts. As you can see in there, she's got all new front brakes from pads, rotors, calipers, and the brake hose. And I have new rear wheel cylinders. Unfortunately there's frost on it right now, but the clear coat is completely gone on the hood and top of the front fenders, and I'm pretty sure the roof too. But everywhere else it's not too bad. The stripes are actually pretty good. Anyway, I'm getting off topic of what I was going through. That right there is a clue of the other thing that we had to do. Here is the interior. We'll get into this a little bit more in a second, but first shot of the interior. Pop the hood. So the first thing I did was replace the master cylinder for the brakes. The only issue with this, and it really isn't an issue at all, is the wire for the level sensor is sticking out that way, where I think I can just, you know what? Yeah, I think I can just pop that sensor out and flip it around to this side, because the connector is right here. This is a 2.2 liter carbureted 4-cylinder engine with 85 horsepower. Just for reference, the 87 Toyota truck, which is what they called it back then, it wasn't a Tacoma, had about 115 horsepower, and it was fuel injected at that point. The Toyota I think it was a 2.4 liter was the 22RE at that point, and I'm pretty sure the E meant it had electronic fuel injection. So Mazda was a little behind the time, because they were still carbureting these trucks all the way up until 1993, and that's when they became basically a rebadged Ford. So this thing ran like crap. It just idled terribly, you know, like you could kind of drive it a little bit, but sometimes it would just all of a sudden just act like it was going to completely die out on you. You had no power at all. So with some research, I'm sure if you are watching this video, you probably already know that the first thing anybody does with these is they get rid of the factory carb setup and all of the rat's nest that's over here, and just throw a Weber carburetor on there. It's a 3236 Weber, and by that I mean this is the Chinese clone of the Weber. This was about $145 on Amazon, and so far no complaints with it, other than that it needed to be adjusted a little bit. It has a full tune-up, cap, rotor, wires and plugs, and I went with all NGK wires and plugs, and I used the original copper plugs, because from what I've learned over the years is that especially these older Japanese engines, they only want NGK plugs. They need to have the right plugs. This truck does have a computer. As you can see, that's an O2 sensor right there with a carburetor. All that was for emissions. There's a computer that ran the emissions systems on these trucks, and that is basically everything that is back here, except for the old carburetor. I actually left that at work, but it had what I assume is some form of air injection for the exhaust with this, and I still have some of that up under the hood. Just your typical air cleaner assembly, and just a rat's nest of vacuum lines and valves and switches, and I guess a very early charcoal canister. I guess you can see why they call them canisters, because they started out looking like a canister. Now they're just like a black box. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I basically have given it a tune-up, took the old spark plugs that were in here and shoved them in these exhaust pipes that come off of the manifold, and yeah, basically I'm trying to figure out the best way to delete that without having to buy a new header for it, at least just yet. I'm sorry, my ADD is crazy this morning. I don't normally consider myself ADD, but I'm bouncing all over the place here, so I do apologize. So what we've done to the truck: tune up, new carburetor, delete all the emissions. I haven't pulled, I'm probably going to be able to clean this up even better, but I haven't done it yet. The battery was new, but it's been working, but it's sat dead for a while, so it's probably not going to last too long. Brakes, I got the master cylinder, complete redo of the front brakes and rear. Actually, I only did one of the rear wheel cylinders. I think it was the driver's side, because for whatever reason there's only one bleeder on the rear, and it's on the driver's side. And though they weren't leaking, the only reason I was replacing them was because I thought that the bleeder was broken off of the one side. So I put one on the other side so I could bleed everything. We now have good brakes. They're fine, but it's a 80s truck with rear drum brakes and 10-inch front discs, so you're not exactly going to put this thing up on its nose. Yeah, so I drove it home yesterday, which is about a 45-mile drive. It did completely fine. I certainly would not want to drive this truck daily, every day. It is not a modern vehicle by any stretch of the imagination. This does not have power steering, which is not an issue. The truck weighs about 2,200 pounds or something like that. I forget exactly how much. It is actually a high trim level, if you will, because it is the SE-5. I guarantee you that was a take on the SR5 for Toyota. So I guess the 5 means that it is a 5-speed manual. The guy said that he had just replaced the clutch and slave and master cylinder on that. It all seems fine, so I'll take his word on that. It only has, I'm sorry, I probably should have done this earlier, it has 103,301 miles on it. I have driven it 60.1 miles now. And I mean, you can just look at, you know, armrest, steering wheel, probably mostly the seat. I mean, look at the seat, it's perfect. There's literally, I mean, normally you always have some wear right there from getting in and out. The carpet is dirty, but it's in pretty good shape. I think we can clean this up really good. It's even got halfway decent mats in it. Okay, I do have a speaker grill on this side. The radio does not work. Let's see what we got back here. Okay. We got a jack. Looks like the original jack and everything back there. Some empty wiper things. I'm not sure. The original coil, they had put another one in there. I think that's a thermostat and gasket, some new battery terminals, and a gallon of coolant. Everything else over there, let's go take a look. It does have the sliding rear window, which is not a standard thing on a truck. These are the old calipers that I have to return the cores. That is an empty box. It needs a blower motor resistor. The fan works on the 2 high speeds only. I ended up just kind of loading up on my stash of bulbs from Rock Auto, because once you buy some stuff, you might as well just load up on things that cost literally nothing. I mean, you can get like a pack of bulbs for like $2. So I think that's everything. There was bulbs. It was all bulbs I needed for the truck, but I ordered extra quantity basically. I've got that, which I haven't looked at yet. I probably won't. This needs to be reattached. We've got a Pioneer. Oh, that's a cassette deck. I thought it was at least a CD player. Doesn't work, at least not in its current state. It's not even hooked up. Most of those wires are not hooked up. We've got probably an equally, well, no, this is worse. This is a Craig, one of those, I forget what these were called. They just had like the 2 big knobs, and like this could just stick through like a small hole in the dash kind of a thing. But you know, it's vintage 80s stuff. I don't know, it's a serial number, I can't make it out. Okay, there's the other speaker grill, so I do have both of those. For whatever reason, they decided to put the speakers under the dash, but it does have them back here too. And it's got 4 of these matching, they're just basic little speakers, they're not tweeters, or it's just a cone. So I had to figure the radio out. The mirror just flops all over the place, but the light does work. Windows do not like to roll down. They get pretty stuck. I have to figure that out. I guess they just need to be lubricated. Got a bunch of extra little wire connectors and stuff down here. I can always use that crap. There's like an extra mirror glass, but the one up there is good. I noticed that this guy didn't tend to throw away the parts that he replaced. I think I found, including the radio, the old one of everything still in the cab. Not sure exactly what the logic is behind that. There's plenty of good videos on doing anything with these trucks. Mazda Mitch, you definitely helped me a lot with getting this truck to where it is right now, and you know, the couple weeks that I've worked on it, well, off and on. So yeah, definitely check out Mazda Mitch's channel. I think it's Mazda Mini Trucking on YouTube. Definitely great information for anything Mazda B series. Flake Garage, I know I've watched some of your stuff too. Definitely not bad either. So there's a lot of resources for these trucks, and from what I can tell, it's a well-built, solid Japanese truck that 103,000 miles is nothing. There's a lot of surface rust on everything. Boots are getting a little dry rotted on all of the linkage down here, but they're all tight. You can see my new brake line there. There's no play in this steering, which is amazing for this, you know, recirculating ball style steering. It's not rack and pinion. All this stuff looks a little knacker for being, what, 35, 36 years old, but it's all tight. It doesn't have any excess play in it. The exhaust does not leak. It's got surface rust on it, but it's very quiet. There's no leaks from it. There was no rust in the frame that I could find. Oh yeah, and this is just for my buddy right here. The two turn signal lenses are kind of different. This one is just kind of faded, and the one on that side is cracked and darker. So I told him to order. We're actually gonna just go with the clear lenses, and amber bulbs instead of this. And we're gonna upgrade the headlights to the style that can handle an H4 bulb instead of being this sealed beam. This is like the old school glass lights that you have to replace the whole assembly if your headlight goes out. And these lights are pretty bad, especially by what we're used to today with LED lights and everything. So we're going to do an upgrade where you get an H4 housing that fits into this headlight bucket. You can put whatever bulb that fits an H4 in there. So we're going to do that and put some LEDs in there. This light does not work. We're going to replace both sides of those. It just seemed it was easier than try to like figure out like resoldering that bulb in there. My plan is to repaint everything up here to try to match the original style of the truck. We're keeping this as original as possible, and I have to look and see. I guess this in here was silver and not black, so that might be a little bit of a challenge to try to, not really, to try to mask that off to keep that looking silver. I'll have to try to look at pictures of these trucks to see if that was or not, but it does seem like that line is very crisp, not like it's just faded in there. But we're going to try to keep this looking as original. That's the idea, is to keep this truck original, because it looks very original now. It has not been modified really in any way except for what I've done to it with the carburetor. The wheels are original and they're really in pretty good shape. I was going to try to paint them, but I think that trying to keep this black part, oh, you can see where they it looks like they were just masked off originally, but I think that is from the factory that way. I don't think that they have ever been like redone. I've seen one of the guys that's restoring or did restore one of these trucks. They just paint the whole thing white. I don't like that. I think it needs that little bit of contrast there. So yeah, you may try to touch up the B2200 there, and I'm going to try to preserve the stripes as best I can because they're in really good shape. Just a little bit of wear, but nothing that I think makes it worth replacing it, because that's a whole lot of work in itself. I'm going to try to and this is not going to happen right now because we're like in the middle of winter. I'm gonna wait till it gets a little warmer and try to scuff the fenders and the hood and everywhere that the clear coat has come off. Try to scuff that up, get rid of the surface rust, and try to put some new clear coat on those. And it's going to be all completely budget. Like, I'm just going to probably get some rattle can clear coat, maybe the 2K stuff, try to be a little bit better with it. And we're going to just, you know, repaint the mirrors, the wiper arms, any trim that looks like it's faded. It's a shame it's so frosty this morning. I want to get started early because I have stuff I have to do later today, but can't quite see everything as well as I had hoped for. There is rust in the bed right here on both sides. There you can see the frame. It's a lot of scaling, but nothing that actually is anywhere close to rotting through. So yeah, if you kind of lift up the tailgate, works good. Let's see if this will lift up. The guy did it for us over there, but I don't remember. Yeah, you can kind of see up under there, but the rest of it looks really good. Like, I mean, this has probably been in its whole life, and really all that's in here is the junk that I just threw in here. So let's see if we can give it a cold start. The cold start yesterday was not particularly great because I don't think I had the carb wasn't really set up at all yet. So give it 3 pumps. The first pump will reset the electric choke, so you'll kind of hear a click with the first pump. At least you should. That closes the choke, and then you give it, like, you know, an extra 2 to give it a little squirt of fuel. Yeah, so I might be still having a little problem with the cold start. Kind of did this for me yesterday. And I think what's happening is the cold start, like the high idle is not engaging. Let's see. Yeah, see, they're not, the choke is not actually closed all the way. So don't know why. That's going to be something to look into. Yeah, so we're a stone cold engine right now. These choke blades should be closed, and they're not. I can smell the gas, and now I probably flooded it. But I'm going to see what I can figure out as far as why they're not closing. Alright, so I think what I'm going to try to do is, it did the exact same thing yesterday, but once it warmed up and got it in the shop, I had no more problem with it. So I think that the choke is not adjusted properly. And I actually marked it yesterday. As you can see, I have 3 marks all the way across this. I don't think it has to be on this like brass colored thing. Let me mention to everybody here, I have never worked on a carbureted car or vehicle before. I've only done fuel injected stuff, and also anything carbureted has been on lawnmower stuff, small engine stuff. So I'm learning with this as I go. This wire right here, this is the same wire that was coming to the old electric choke on the old carburetor. I just extended it and just kind of temporarily put a fitting on there. That comes off of the back of the alternator, and it has about 7 volts on it when it's running. And I did confirm that yesterday. All right, so now I loosen this up, and this is like a thermostat in here. It's like a coil of bimetallic wire, just like you'd have in a thermostat, like in your house, at least an old school thermostat. And as it heats up, it will expand on one side, it makes it turn one way, and as it cools down, it goes the opposite way. This is okay, so now we saw a movement. Wow, I feel like it would. I'd see more movement than that. But this is why I want to mark it, because I know I can put it back where it was, otherwise I have no idea. But that's where it was. So why is the choke not closing? And it should, when you pump the gas pedal, it's supposed to click shut. And I know that it was doing that yesterday. I could hear it doing it, and it was, you'd start up, it would be on fast idle, and then you hit the gas pedal again and it comes down. So why is it not doing that now? All right, let me play with it and I'll come back. Okay. All right, so yesterday I was screwing around with this screw right here, and this screw is the fast idle adjustment. I screwed it in pretty far, and that's what was causing these to not allow to be completely closed. So I just unscrewed it to where, let's see if I can show you. So there's like a black cam, plastic cam right here, and so what I did was I unscrewed this to where it wasn't touching that anymore, and then these were allowed to go all the way closed. So now I just have it screwed back into where it's just touching it. At least to me that seems to make sense as like a baseline. So the choke can be closed all the way now, but there's no spring tension like to hold it closed, and it's still completely cold. We tried to start it, but it didn't run, so it's stone cold, and that's how you have to do this. So there's spring here, like, you know, it'll come back about halfway, but that's where we want to get in here, at least I think, from what I understand, and adjust this. I just tightened one of these up. I put it back to where the marks were lined up. So let's see. Okay, that opens it more. So we want to go back this way. See how it has spring tension to go all the way closed? But you can very easily push it down. See, like there, it's not actually closing all the way. And there it closes. I kind of feel like that's pretty good. I'm gonna go right there. Just gotta hold it. Tighten it back down. Okay. Now, I'm not going to pump the pedal because I've already done that. Now, as soon as it starts, those plates should open up a little bit. Okay, well, it started, but it died. It should be idling around there, and that's where I see the screw is way off of the cam. That's what I don't understand. So I may have to look into that a little bit more. And here it's warming up, it's sounding a little bit better. Yeah, so I feel like this has to be higher. This is basically what I did yesterday. So it would actually idle. And it is really cold. It's probably only about 25 degrees or so this morning. So this will just let it warm up a little bit, and we'll come back and see where we're at. So we've got nice heat in here now, so it's definitely getting a little bit warmed up. It doesn't want to come off a fast idle now. We're going to just take it for a little drive around the block, which up here is like 6 miles probably. We'll deal with the idle later once it actually is fully warmed up. Manual steering, it's not really too bad once you're moving, but you do kind of have to remember it. If you're trying to like parallel park, it's not going to be that particularly fun. Drives really good, straight, doesn't like shake or have any like crazy rattles or anything. Heat is coming through really good. Like it's definitely underpowered. Well, I wouldn't say it's underpowered. It's just barely adequate, I guess is the way to describe it. Like you can get up to speed just fine, but like, you know, in a modern car, you can go up a hill like this and whatever gear you want, you'll be fine. This thing, you know, I couldn't do that in 5th gear. We now have brakes, which is good. And you know, 15-20 years ago, this style of interior and like the style of the whole vehicle, it just looks so dated because it was only like 20 years prior to that. And you know, we look at 20-year-old cars now, it's just absolute junk. You know, they're at the bottom of their value. But this kind of a thing is really getting rare. You just don't see these things on the road anymore. So it's got, you know, a uniqueness factor to it, which is kind of what that, and the originality of it. Like, it's very unmolested, as they would say. If you're just tooling around in it, you can shift real easily. It works well. The temperature gauge only really gets up to about where it is right there. There is another thermostat in the truck, which I don't know what temperature that is, but the heat is definitely nice and warm. So I don't know what temperature it actually is getting up to. That's fourth gear pulling a little bit of the hill. Like, you can feel it laboring some, but it's doing it. It's not like slowing down. It'll at least maintain it. Not going to win any land speed records, but it's drivable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can use this as a truck, no problem. You just know you're not going to be. Well, I did have to still have to pass people yesterday driving it home. And there's fifth. You know, and it's not. You can do 70 miles an hour on an interstate. Really, no problem. It's not spinning ridiculously fast or anything like that. You know, very little any kind of way of rattles in here. I mean, that shows you it's a Japanese truck. It's built well. I mean, 103,000 miles on a true Japanese built vehicle is nothing. I think I'm actually not going to go all there. I actually went the wrong way. So I'm not just going around a block. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and turn around here. Get it up, you know, to 50, and you can just cruise on some flat road. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, like, the steering is pretty tight. I mean, it's not rack and pinion, but I mean, that's about as tight as you would expect for circulating ball steering. Sound of the engine, it's very industrial sounding. Like, it just sounds like a tractor. Don't pull. Oh my god, look at this guy. He did at least wave. Like, sorry. Kind of works. The buttons are a little, they That was second gear, and it almost felt like it wanted to stall, and I was moving already. It's geared very low. Like first gear gets you about 6 feet. But it's got the right transmission for the engine, you know, it has no power. It needs gears to be usable. And it is. And it's good that it's 5-speed. If this was a 4-speed, I don't know if any of these came with 4 speeds, but that would make it much less drivable on like the highway. You would be screaming and doing 50 miles an hour in the right lane. There's basically 60. You got a little wind noise. It's not, you know, it's certainly not a 7 Series inside as far as noise, but it's not that bad. I don't think this vehicle would have ever been, I think this thing is like 80% of what it would have been when it was new. Let's see if I can go up here in second gear. Oh yeah. Yeah, the throttle definitely just seems like it wants to kind of stay high. So that's what I got to figure out. But that's kind of minor. It runs really good. I'm going to shut it off. It doesn't diesel on anymore. It was doing that with the old one. It would keep running. It would boom, 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 and then it would finally shut off. It should restart fine. Yeah. I mean, it gets like 2 cranks and it's running. It was smoking a lot before, and it is not doing that anymore. So it seems like the carburetor took care of that. I thought it was going to need valve seals because it only did it when you first started it. But yeah, so I got to figure out that issue. I'm gonna try to clean up the interior today. I'm trying to get this. My buddy still has. He's driven it. He drove it but without the carburetor installed. So he had brakes, but still a crappy running engine. So he's very excited to start driving this thing and use it. So I want to try to get it to him as soon as possible. And some of this other stuff, obviously I got to get to where it starts properly, but some of this other stuff can wait a little while, let him drive it, see what he finds wrong with it, and he can let me know what to look at, kind of stuff. So anyway, thanks for kind of, you know, watching here today. And, you know, subscribe if you want to see more on this and let me know. All right, guys. Peace.